Hello everyone, greetings from PayTabs technical support team. In this series, you will learn how to integrate with PayTabs through our PT2 API endpoints. And we will walk you through the fourth integration type, which is the own form. For the purpose of this series, we have created a very simple Laravel project to walk you through the integration process. But feel free to follow the steps in this series with your own project, whatever the programming language or the frameworks used to integrate with PayTabs. So, let's get started. In this video, we are going to learn how to initiate one of our token-based transaction, which is the recurring payment or the merchant-initiated payment. So, let's get started. The first thing you should know is that you can find the full details for this part inside PayTabs support portal under the article called the OwnForm API's Integration Manual. If we navigated from the integration manual over here to step 3 initiating the payment, we can see that part 3 of this step is related to token-based transaction, and this can be individual or distinguished into two parts, which is managing the tokens and using the tokens. Managing the tokens is certainly about creating the token, querying its status, and deleting it. In the previous video, we learned how we can create a token, and of course you can follow the articles for querying and deleting the token. But for this video, we want to use this token to initiate a recurring payment or a merchant initiated payment. Now, why is it called merchant initiating payment? Because this types of payment is actually does not require the customer to fulfill any customer detail or actually does not require anything from the customer side. Simply, once you create a token by initiating a payment for the transaction and tokenizing this transaction, now you can use this token to initiate any payment to the merchant and deduct the amount directly from his card. Now, in order to use the recurring option, you will need to have it enabled inside your PayTabs profile. So please note that if you want to use the recurring payment, kindly just communicate or contact customer care at paytabs.com or contact your account manager requesting to enable recurring in your profile. Now, once recurring is enabled, the next thing you need to do in order to initiate the payment is to simply initiate the initial payment and tokenize it. We learned in the previous video that we can tokenize any payment by passing the parameter tokenize with the hashing value that we want according to the solution article we showed you. Now, by passing it to our normal payment, we are going to initiate a normal payment where the customer are going to fulfill his details, fulfill his card details, but this time these details will be tokenized and a token will be retrieved in the transaction response. So if we get over here to try it out again, we are going to fill out our details and then our card details like that. And once we press on checkout like this, we will see that in the response we will receive a token, a new response parameter called token, and this is its value, and also we will receive a transaction reference. Now, the next part is that you will need to save this token and this transaction reference along with the customer details inside your database or whatever way of saving it, and for any further payment that you want to use to deduct any amount from this customer, you are going to use these two options, which is the transaction reference or the token, to initiate a payment that will deduct the amount directly from your customer. Now, this payment will look like this. It's a very simple request payload that contains our 7 required parameters, and along with it we will pass the token and the transaction reference, and actually you can use only one of them. Now, this transaction reference represents the transaction that we just tokenized. This one, the one that you have gained the customer card details in it and you have gained a token for it. So now that we have received this customer or this transaction details inside our callback by this way, now we have the transaction reference and we have the token. If we get back to our code over here, you can see that we have generated a recurring payload that contain all of these details. It contains the 7 required parameters clarified in the previous video called required parameters, but this time we will use the transaction class of recurring to specify that this is not a normal ecom transaction. This is a recurring transaction that is merchant initiated and the amount will be deducted directly from the customer. Now, we can use either both the token and the transaction reference. We can use only the token or only the transaction reference, but the only thing you need to make sure that you are using one of these two things, the token or the transaction reference from this customer or this transaction. Now I'm going to take a copy of this transaction reference over here, paste it inside my request payload, and I'm going to take the token, of course, also paste it over here. Now, remember something very important. You don't need to initiate any UI for the customer for this payment or this request. But for just of sake of display, I have created a very simple UI over here, but it's not editable. As you can see, I cannot enter anything. It's just a one-click payment base that what I want to do here is once I click on proceed to payment, I want the payment to be done and fulfilled immediately. So once I click on proceed to payment over here, you should see now that the payment has been done. I haven't entered anything. If I get back over here to my callback response, I will see that the payment resulted authorized successfully. The amount was deducted. Everything is the same. The transaction class here is named capture and oath, which represents the recurring transaction class. You will receive it as capture and oath that looks like this, or CNOs. And now we have initiated a recurring payment very easily and very normally. Now you can check the full request payload inside our solution article on Form API's token-based transaction recurring payments, and once you use the request payload you received here, you will be initiating a very simple recurring payment, and you can use this way or this, let's say, workflow in the way that suits your business best. So now we can move to the next part.